Do you wish you could just share your health and wellness knowledge to help the world and not have to deal with the business owner side of things? That's a common feeling amongst many entrepreneurs who just want to do the thing that they love. But the reality is we've got to deal with the business side too, especially in the beginning. Now, none of that has stopped today's guest, who has tackled entrepreneurship head on. Surviving cancer twice is part of Gena Bradshaw's motivation to help others live well and share their gifts with the world. She does this through her business and podcast, Holistic Human Performance. In our chat, Gena highlights the importance of in-person networking and speaking events for her, the role that writing a book played in getting her business off the ground, and the importance of seeing entrepreneurship as a long-term game. Also, I will acknowledge the elephant in the room for this episode. Audio issues happen to the best of us, and on my audio for this, there is some light clicking and skipping that I was not aware of that was happening during the recording session. We only noticed after the fact. Unfortunately, sometimes you just can't fix certain things, and this is one of those cases. It's not too bad, but I just have to at least acknowledge why a podcast production company has an issue with the audio. You just have to go with it when these things happen. So, I tell clients that all the time. We do our best to make sure they capture good recordings, but every now and then when you're dealing with technology, it's just what happens. So let's roll with it. It's really not that bad, but I just want to bring it up here. Here we go. I'm Joel Oliver, and this is Profits Through Podcasting. Gena, welcome in.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about today. I think we should start just by establishing a bit about you and who you are, your business. So let's hear about the business specifically, Holistic Human Performance. When and why did you start that?
All right, so here's the journey of it. Personally, my why, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. And throughout my own journey, I really learned the importance of health. And if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And throughout that journey, learning that it also wasn't solely about just like fitness, nutrition, and sleep. It's much deeper than that. It had me posing the question of what actually is health? Like, what does that actually mean? And how can someone achieve optimal health? Because you see people all the time who work out really, really hard. And, they live this like active lifestyle, but they still get sick. So my question was, what else are we missing? And throughout my own journey of just healing and experience and doing the work for myself to feel great and thrive in life, I stumbled upon energy medicine and Eastern medicine, and honestly, things that we were not taught growing up. At least I wasn't. I won't speak for everyone, but I noticed, it's not things that we're getting taught in school. And I said, this is very interesting. We have all of these different puzzle pieces of what I call them the 5 buckets. So mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. And energetic is what ties all of those buckets together. And so if you're someone, for example, who is very high strung, living in, chronic stress and survival mode, but you're still exercising and things, it still does make you susceptible to disease, right? Because it's energetic. And so that's kind of really where I started to come from. And throughout my journey of I saw that when I started to implement and integrate these simple, holistic daily tools like meditation, breathing properly, positive thinking, getting outside in nature more, which that was always a part of my life, just, being more intentional, an intentional lifestyle. And I said to myself, more people need to know this. And I started receiving the same questions. I started being asked the same questions. So I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book about this. And so it started off with a book called A Survivor's Story, A Holistic Healing Journey Through Cancer. And it's like a guide. It brings people through my own journey, but also I combine the science and spirituality aspect of it and help people kind of be like, hey, even if you are doing this, you can also do this. And you don't have anything to lose. It's going to help you. And here's the research to prove it. And so it all started with my first book, which was published in 2021. And for me, it was very cathartic. It was very healing. So when I published it, I didn't realize the impact that it would actually have. And now this wasn't my goal, but now it's a best-selling book. It's like it won an award. So it was pretty cool how, my intention was really just to add value to other people's lives. And then from there, I had this feeling, okay, there's more. Like there's more for me to do. And that's where Holistic Human Performance was born a year later in 2022. And, it just turned into something so honestly, like I don't even think I could have dreamed this of what it's turned into. So I'm really happy about that. And again, it's to help people reclaim their health, transform their lives, and find their soul's mission and purpose. Along the way, I have found that health and purpose are directly correlated. You cannot have one without the other. It just doesn't work. Even if you think about it yourself, like if you're feeling unfulfilled, you probably don't feel your best and you're probably suffering in some aspect of your health. And so that's what I found on the discovery. And that is what I bring to other people and help people with. And that's, where we're at today with Holistic Human Performance.
Before all of that, were you into health and wellness at all? Or like, what were you doing at that point?
Yes. So my background is exercise science. I grew up in a family where, health, fitness, and wellness was number one. My parents are entrepreneurs as well. We, again, have a family fitness business. And I thought that I was going to be in that segue of like fitness, nutrition, sport performance, kind of like the foundational aspect of it. And that was like my goal. And something just, when I was going through, I call it like my awakening. When I was going through it, it kind of dawned on me that this is not where I'm meant to be going with it. Like I'm meant to go deeper with it. So that's where I started with everything. And I was an athlete myself. I ran track and field in college. And I started to notice that when people would come to me and they'd be like, oh, I'm looking to like gain more lean muscle tissue and like lose weight and do this and do that. And then I would start to realize that there's a much deeper root to people wanting to lose weight, get healthy. And it's not just so surface level that people think. And that's kind of what opened the doors for me and started obviously like my own journey. But then I started to realize the pattern in society and why people have such a problem. Let's just say, for example, losing weight. Right? Why did they struggle with that their whole lives? Why is it a yo-yo? Why is this an issue? And so that is something that I really took notice of. But my background is fitness, nutrition, and sport performance. So I bring it a little bit deeper with the holistic lifestyle.
Let's just bring the podcast into the picture now before we move on and learn more about how the business runs. Tell us a little bit about that. I think you started it in 2023. Why did you start that podcast and what kind of content are you putting out there on it?
So I've been podcasting since I think it was like 2018 or 2019. I started off with actually my parents with our family fitness business, and then COVID happened. So we were going to different facilities, sport performance facilities, and interviewing the owners and talking about, how did you develop this? Like, what's your business model? And just like learning all that stuff. And then COVID happened. So we started doing it online, and then life gets in the way and we stopped podcasting. And I started doing my own thing. And then along the journey, had another co-host, did another podcast. That was really cool. You like learn all of these different things. And then, we kind of just like went our separate ways doing our own thing, especially when I really got into Holistic Human Performance. And then I've always just loved podcasting. It's just like fun for me. And my main goal, especially kind of jumping ship from one community to another, because the holistic community is much different than sport performance and fitness and nutrition and wellness, of course. So I kind of jumped into this new community, and I'm like, what's the best way to meet people who are the best in their industry and learn? And I was like, podcasting. So I started a podcast based off of that. And I've like, for me, it was just more fun and just to interview really awesome people who are really great, who add value. And it turned into something where I was like, okay, am I going to, stick with solo episodes? Am I going to do guests? And it really, like, I have a couple of solo episodes, but I get 5 pitches a day from different all over the globe, and it is the coolest thing ever to learn, to meet new people, to become friends with people, and even like collaborate in business with others. So it's become something that I'm like, oh, okay, this is turned into something really cool, and I'm going to continue.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of people would like to be in that situation where they are getting pitched. Now, when you started, did you have to do a lot of that work yourself and go try to find these guests? Whereas now more so they just come to you?
Yes. I had to originally start off kind of, okay, how does it work? Like, I've done podcasting before, but it's a different type of business, honestly. And, you're learning the ropes. So I knew I had like a couple of people that I had contacted, and I'm all about the story. I'm all about like somebody's story, how they got into it. And I said, all right, I have a couple of people here. And I remember I had this one individual, Dr. Perry Nicholson. He's called the Lymph Doc. And I was like so nervous to pitch him to come onto the podcast. He was like one of my biggest guests at that point. And he said yes and came on. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then honestly, after that, once I started gaining some like, bearings in that industry, all of a sudden I started to get like pitches, and I started being like, this is interesting. Okay, cool. And then it kind of just developed into something so grand that I'm like getting all these pitches per day. I'm like having trouble keeping up with them, to be honest. But it's really cool.
That's great to hear. I'm curious too, with that doctor that you pitched, how did you go about that?
So I had been personally a big fan of him, and I knew his background. Like, we had a commonality. We both had thyroid cancer, and the work that he does is so aligned with what I do in terms of like holistic health, wellness, and things like that. And I simply just pitched him and said, hey, like, I'm also a cancer survivor. I know about your story. I think it's incredible, the work that you do. I'm a big, fan. I would love to interview you on my podcast. And he said yes. So it's pretty simple. You just got to put yourself out there,
Let's talk a bit more about the business. You gave us the backstory. We know you've got a lot going on there, but who specifically is your ideal client? What exactly are you offering? How do you deliver it? Let's hear a bit about that.
Yeah. So basically, the way that I modeled holistic human performance is kind of what you would consider hybrid. So I do mostly online, but also in person, like events and workshops and things like that. However, I pretty much created like an umbrella. So it's holistic human performance. I have the holistic human performance podcast. I have the holistic human performance app. I have one-on-one coaching and healing services. And then I have the digital and physical products. And so over time, obviously, I didn't start out with all of this. I originally started out with doing one-on-one coaching, specifically those people who are looking to create more of a holistic lifestyle, and also who are into spirituality, and really they want to create long-lasting change in their lifestyle. So I'm that person that kind of, these individuals have been through the ringer and back with like Western medical model, and they're like, I give up. Like, I don't even know who else to talk to. I don't know where else to go. And then they come find me and we go over, okay, what's your goal? What are you looking to accomplish with your health? What's the lifestyle you're looking to accomplish? And then we kind of take it with those 5 buckets that I was telling you about earlier. That's like my core teaching with everything that I do. And I originally started off with like the one-on-one coaching and healing, and also digital courses, because again, I was getting so many of the same questions, and I said, okay, let me like create this in just like this evergreen model where I did pre-recorded digital courses. So it started off with that. Now, I knew that I wanted to be mostly online. I knew that I wanted to do that. So I think that that's a really great starting point with anyone who's looking to do this type of work. Like, do you want to be mostly in person? Do you want to stick with just one-on-one? I think that's the great, and obviously like, who is your people? Who are you speaking to? That then developed into a need of what I noticed individuals asking once they got their health in order and they started to develop, they became more of like this clear channel to actually tap into, oh, wait, I don't really like what I'm doing, whether it be career or I want to get into entrepreneurship. And so I also work with entrepreneurs in terms of those who are really just burnt out, tired. They want to develop, more of a spiritual wellness business. They don't know where to start. They don't have the systems in place. And I go over a lot of the energetics of business and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a spiritual game. And so that's what I started to recognize. And so I serve those two different individuals, whether they want to start off with their health or they're entrepreneurs and they're looking to also improve their health, but also find purpose and follow their soul's mission and purpose. And then from there, I kind of just built. I really just listened to what people were telling me. They're like, this is what I need. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's create a wellness journal, or let's create a gratitude journal. And so I created those different physical products that people could easily just be like, okay, let me just get this. This is an easy tool that I could use, because I personally found, I don't know about you, but obviously, somebody who holds space for other people, if you want to grow in business or whatever aspect, like, you got to invest in yourself. So, having coaches, mentors, healers, that taught me a lot. And I also noticed that, I guess you could say, I wasn't finding exactly what I needed, although I had some great coaches. I personally like it when someone, let's just say if we're doing a coaching session and let's just say I'm like, okay, homework, you're going to do this, this, and this. Okay, great. Where am I getting that? Where am I getting that information? So I said, I want to create an app for individuals who were doing coaching sessions together. And let's just say if they're going through a lot of anger, for example. Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go into the app and you're going to do the breath work for anger. So all of these different tools that help integrate into their lives very easily and simply without being overwhelming or anything of the sorts. So that's kind of how I developed the business model. My goal is to make it as easy and integrative as possible, because it's one thing if I'm telling you to do something, but if you're not actually doing it, it's not going to work. It's a waste of your money. So I'm about the integration tool. And so that's where I created these different physical and digital products to help integrate into the life.
That leads me to another question that I want to get to. But to start, something interesting I've noticed over the years, as I became enlightened on my journey of learning about health and wellness, is this whole holistic thing. There was a time in my life where that was just, to me, it was just whatever. Like, I don't know what that is, or meditation. I don't know. That's not for me. It doesn't make any sense. But I would keep encountering these people. And I find this from you as well, where they would just have this energy about them, and this presence. And I'm thinking, what's with this person? Let me find out. And every single time it was something they worked in holistic wellness, or they had been practicing it or something. So I'd seen so many examples of that over the years that led me to kind of see the benefits. So it's interesting. I noticed, like, the second that you joined this call as well, I got that vibe from you. Like, I've seen with so many people before, and I had to know what's going on. How do I do what you're doing? I want to be like that. So that's an interesting observation. But then what I'm leading to is, through your presence, I've seen here, you're very, very passionate about all this stuff. Like, you're so eager to share what you've learned and help people. I'm curious, how did you feel about having to take that passion and develop a business around it? It seems like you have enjoyed every step, but were there any frustrations where you felt like, I just want to share, but I'm forced to work on this business stuff, because you can't just share. You got to actually have the business surrounding it. Was that a frustration or a challenge for you, or have you enjoyed that part as well?
Oh, no, it was a challenge. I would consider myself more of like a creative, and also, yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very passionate. And I think that the hardest part, it's not like I went to business school. Like, I took some classes and stuff, but it's not like I went to business school. And as an entrepreneur, when you start, you're wearing all the hats. Like, you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the learning. It's not easy. And I don't care what anybody says to you, it's hard. And you're wearing all of the hats, you're learning all of the things. You will eventually get to a point of delegating those tasks, yes. But in the beginning, I mean, unless you have like investors of some sort, which I knew that I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't want to go that route for some reason. I don't know why. I just didn't want to go that route. And I think like what made me a little bit more, I don't know, I guess you could say fearful about going all in would be if I, had these investors and then, you have to like pay them back. And then you're like, what if this doesn't actually work out kind of thing? But that is part of the journey as well, of course. But for me, I just knew that it was going to work out. Like I just knew on a soul level that it was going to work out. And same with you, I had noticed interviewing all these people, they're all saying the same thing, right? Like how did they get to this point in life? And all of them said it didn't happen overnight, right? You see all of these successful people, like they always leave clues, and it didn't happen overnight. 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Some of these people are living the lifestyle and doing the thing for 30 plus years, and you think that you're going to be where they're at overnight. And it's just, it's not happening. Maybe, you know what? Maybe miraculously it might happen for like 1 out of however many people, but most of it's just not how it goes. Entrepreneurship is a long-term game. And when you have that mindset and you're willing and eager to learn and you're finding solutions to a problem and you're saying, hey, I have the answer, that's your North Star. Your why is your North Star. And I just keep aligning to that. And your business will change over time. So I never tried to, in the beginning though, I definitely was like more tightly gripped on like, no, it has to be this way. I definitely loosened that because it's developed into something that's like so much bigger than I could ever have dreamed of, to be honest. But at the same time, it is not an easy game and it's personal development on crack. So you have to be willing to really just dive into it. And I always tell entrepreneurs, if you're just getting into the game, even if you've been in for a while and you're just like burnt out from your own business, you need to reevaluate what your values are. And it's because of my own health journey too, like being a cancer survivor and trying to make sure I live a life that is in accordance to just my own health needs and non-negotiables. Like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? So I think that's the key aspect. Like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? And then building a business around that. And I think that's really helped me out a lot.
Hey, it's Joel jumping in for 15 seconds to say if you are ready to take your podcast to the next level and save time so you can focus on your business while generating more leads and revenue through podcasting, book your podcast vitality call with me today at eastcoaststudio.com. You'll find the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode. Let's hear a bit about your actual leads that you're getting, because you're clearly doing well. You're able to help people. Where are most of the people coming from nowadays that you end up working with as customers?
I would say it's actually a pretty good combination of online, but also I think people who, I want to make this point, a lot of people who are solely online, I think might solely rely on the fact, or maybe they see other people like, oh, they have lots of followers. That's probably where they're getting all their leads from. That's not totally accurate. I think that, even having solely an online business, you need to go network, like get out, live life, like meet people. A lot of the times, the outings that I go to, whether it's just to have fun or, networking, I'm getting leads from those. And it's solely just from kind of like what you said, like, oh, your energy. Oh, how did you get there? Like, what's happening here? And they ask questions. And then I start to talk and they're like, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. And so I'm getting a good combination, I would say, from both social media, the podcast for sure helps, and in person, like events and things like that, for sure. Like whether I'm speaking or, doing networking, I would say it's a good combination of those.
So you do speaking gigs as well?
Yes.
And how do those come about?
Let's see. Well, I pitch myself. All right. So I've been doing speaking unintentionally for a very long time. I'll tell you a funny story. So my mom thought she was cute and we laugh about it now. At the time, it was not funny. So I did two very big speaking events at age 13 and at age 16. At age 13, I didn't even think about it. It was like so not I barely remember it. I just did it kind of thing. I didn't even know, anything about it. I had like my speech written out. It was whatever. Actually, George Ross from The Apprentice was a guest there. So it was all though for Children's Medical Foundation. So I always have been giving back to the cancer community. And then come along age 16 and I got an opportunity where they contacted my parents. Again, this was Children's Medical Foundation. And it was at Cipriani's in New York City. Over 1,000 businessmen and women. So we have Elvis Costello in the crowd, we have Ray Romano, and we have Melania Trump in the crowd.
Wow.
And I did not know any of this. So my mom was like, no big deal. It's the same as like that speech you did when you were 13. Okay, cool. I walk in and I'm not even kidding you. I don't know if you've ever been to this Cipriani's. I walk in, there are, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 big plasma screen TVs where my face would be plastered on. And mind you, I'm a teenage girl. So that was just fearful in itself. And I had braces and everything. And I'm looking at all the seating. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Are you insane? My mom goes, oh, you're getting up there and you're doing it. And so it was kind of like forced, but I did it. And it ended up being like fantastic. And I prepared well for that, of course. Like my aunt, she was an English teacher, so she helped me write up my speech or whatever. And that was one of the scariest moments of my life, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so that prompted just like, listen, it was a natural, I guess, ability that a gift. I can't even describe that. I'm grateful, although at the time it was super scary for my parents to push me and do that, but I did it. And it kind of opened up other doors for speaking because then you kind of like have this on your resume kind of thing. So if you ever did want to get into speaking later on down the road, which I knew I wanted to, that's kind of where it opened up. And then just from there, kind of like writing and speaking became something that I was into even when I was in the fitness industry. One of my first big articles was in Men's Fitness Journal, and it was all about sprinting and running and all the different metabolic systems. So different style of writing, but it, again, paid off for where I'm at today. And then I had a really big, I had some other speaking opportunities, and then I had a really big opportunity. It was equivalent to like a TED Talk, and it's called Speak Events. It was fantastic. And again, I put myself out there. I don't know what came over me. My friend had told me about them and I was like, oh, cool. Like, let me hit them up. And so I pitched them, and probably 2 months later, I heard from them. They were like, okay, we're doing something called Speak Events Health. You would be perfect. You have 2 weeks to create a speech and practice. And by the way, you can't have any note cards or anything on stage. You have to just speak. I was like, okay. And I just said yes before I could like get in my own way. And it ended up being phenomenal. It was one of the best, scariest experiences. But I prepared. They coached you through it. And then we were able to do we did a live podcast after on stage with all of the speakers, which was really cool. So yeah, that's how it kind of like my speaking kind of unfolded. And then from there, I've just been doing a lot of it.
Sure, there's people out there who feel like maybe they want to do that, but they don't feel that they have that capability, or maybe they don't have the energy or charisma of someone like yourself who's been doing this, or they don't have that moment where they were thrown on stage at 16. What would you say to them, some tips maybe to get started? Because you're clearly showing that there are a lot of benefits that are coming from you being out there in this way.
Practice. You have to practice and put yourself out there, as scary as it is. Actually, there was a statistic that I read that public speaking is actually more fear-driven than death. And so I would say practice. There's a really good, they're all over the country. They're called Toastmasters. And you can go in there and you can just practice any chance you get, any opportunity. where it's like, hey, do you want to do like a workshop? Or like, even if it's small, it doesn't need to be these like big things on stage. No, like even leading a class, like that is public speaking. That's a form of public speaking. And so any opportunity where you can practice and you can just get out there and do it, it's just like going to the gym. You're looking to gain more lean muscle tissue. I mean, are you going to do that by sitting on your phone on the bench? No. You have to put in the reps. You have to practice. And this has been years of me practicing. It did not happen overnight. And podcasting helped me. So maybe like starting off with a podcast, that is very helpful. Of course, it's different in terms of like somebody, you're speaking in front of people in real time, but it's a good start. Practicing maybe on social media. You don't like to be this fear of being seen. Maybe you just start by filming yourself on social media, getting whatever information out there. Practice being an authority figure. That's key.
Great. Well, as we're getting towards the end here, you've shown us how you grew your business. We've talked about, of course, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it sounds great. We share all these stories. It just sounds amazing. Like everything is perfect with what's going on. So for someone who is newer to this, they're trying to build up their business and they're hearing this amazing story that you're sharing. It's important for them to know as well that you alluded to, there's always challenges. What is a current challenge of yours, or at least a priority that you're focusing on in your business?
Yeah, I would say, there's always going to be like these milestones in business. And I think one of the hardest things for me, and I feel like maybe you'll appreciate this and feel this too, is celebrating your wins. And when you hit that milestone, like, I know for me, it was like, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? And I think celebrating wins is so important because, again, it shows that, hey, like I did it. Like this was an accomplishment I did. And it's a big deal, and entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And that was one of the struggles I had too. It's like the loneliness and like the community aspect and knowing that you're not alone and you have other entrepreneurs that are out there also grinding it out and struggling. And I also want to say that just because it looks cute or nice online, it's not. There's a lot of grit behind it, okay? There's a lot of challenges. I've cried many times on the floor, and that's okay because that's part of the journey, It's kind of like what I like to describe it is like, what's that growth edge? And you start to find, and this is part of personal development. This is like the two go hand in hand. And how much can your nervous system handle? So that's a lot of work that I do with individuals, nervous system regulation. That's like so basic and important. If you don't have the capacity to hold space for your own self, you're not going to be able to do it with other people. So it's so important to be able to fill up your cup and do the inner work. And even though it's really daunting sometimes and scary, I promise you, it gets better on the other side. And then something else comes up and then it gets better. You do the work and it gets better on the other side. So it's this spiralic journey and evolution that's never ending. There's never a final destination, to be honest with you. It's just like this journey that's always evolving, always growing. And the most important part is to surrender and flow with it. We don't want to force, we want to flow with it. But again, it's not easy, but it's so worth it. I don't even know where I would be if I didn't do this. Like I don't have a plan B. Like, I don't know.
It's had to work.
Yeah.
Well, Gena, I appreciate your time. This has been extremely insightful. holistichumanperformance.co, the website. We'll put that in the show notes so people who are interested in maybe reaching out, you could hire you as a speaker or work with you, check out your podcast, all the resources you have. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was such a fun conversation.
Join us again next time on Profits Through Podcasting for more insights on how to turn your health-focused podcast into a lead and revenue generation machine for your business. Are you ready to let a team of professionals handle your entire podcast production workflow? East Coast Studio can help you elevate your podcast to the higher quality standards required for credibility in the health and wellness space. Plus, give you the guidance and support needed to podcast consistently, growing your impact and your sales. Visit eastcoaststudio.com to learn more.